Welcome to Dugout Therapy, a baseball podcast about the mental game built by coach greats. If you're looking to succeed both on and off the field, this is the place for you.
You know, I think that's important in creating that type of environment where, you know, we're able to establish some discipline and focus where they know what they have to do. They come in, they do it, and they know what they have to work on to prepare themselves to throw that day. Because in a game, you know, a lot of, especially in high school, there's, you know, high school coaches don't really have a set routine for these pitchers to go through. I mean, even at the youth levels, I mean, you know, I'm not talking high school, I'm talking, you know, youth, little league. You know, it's important for them to have an established routine to prepare their bodies to throw that day. And if they're not feeling good, if their arm's sore, they need to listen to their arm, they need to listen to their body, and they need to talk to their coach. And, you know, me as a coach, it's my job to now create a plan for them that day that's going to get them better and that's going to be in their overall best interest. You know, I don't want a guy who's afraid to tell me that his arm's hurting, because at the end of the day, it's going to do more harm than good for him to push through something like that.
Hey guys, welcome to Dugout Therapy. This is your host, Dave Wodzis, with my co-host, Quinn Adams. Quinn, how you doing, bud?
I am doing fine. It's a nice Saturday here today, and we just had a fire app.
Yeah, it was really good. Actually, close friend of mine. We got to interview, which was cool.
Your buddy?
Yeah, Tom Drown from Morris County, and him and his business partner, pitching enthusiast, Henry Warner. So yeah, they founded Total ArmCare, a pitching development program for the Morris County Cubs over in Morris County, New Jersey. But yeah, me and Drown go way back to college. Good friend of mine, and we were able to shed on some of his experience in the pitching world and analytics. We got into a whole lot. Really in depth episode. It was good.
These guys know what they're talking about. Like, definitely there were some times where you and I, like, there were some things where we were like, what is that? You know, like, what does that stand for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, they're knowledgeable guys.
They're ahead of the times. You know, they're gonna take care of their kids, and that's the most important thing. So
yeah, they've built. I mean, and they call it elite throwing development for a reason. Like, their program is it's elite. They have a lot of different aspects to it. You know, one of which was really cool is like the sports medicine side. So they have sports medicine individuals working with them to build out the proper plans for kids. One, which is really cool, and then two, they dive into like movement patterns and you know, overall mechanics, and then, you know, we got into a nice long conversation of how this all applies to mentality on the mound. And you know, pitching is like the one part of the game, you could say, where it's you and your head. You step on the mound, it's you within your mind. And sometimes you can control your performance out there with just your thoughts. So, yeah, it was really cool. I loved it.
I didn't like how Tom, you know, referenced Max Scherzer when I was like, what's the epitome of a great pitcher? Just because I'm not a fan of Max Scherzer at all. You know, I'm more of a Jose Barrios guy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What's your dig with Max, I guess? What was it?
I mean, he's good. He has been good for about a decade now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm more a fan of the unique kind of pitchers because he's like, he makes it look easy.
Yeah.
And that's not what I like. I like the more animated guys. You know?
Yeah, Max definitely has his mechanics down to a science.
He's too perfect. It's like Trout. Trout, for me, is too perfect. It's like hard to watch how good these guys are.
For me, I'm the opposite on Trout. It's so great to watch because it's so perfect. But I could get that on
He's a Jersey boy, too.
Yeah, so I have a soft spot for him, I guess. All right, well, tune in, guys. Real good episode here. You know, Tom Drown, Henry Warner. Here we go.
Listen.
Hey guys, welcome to Dugout Therapy. I have Tom Drown on the line with Henry Warner, two guys from Total ArmCare out of Morris County, New Jersey. Had the pleasure of playing with Drowny back in college, so looking forward to talking a little baseball tonight with him and his partner, and talking a little about pitching. An area they have way more expertise than me in. Super excited to have you both on here. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Dave. Appreciate it. This is awesome. Really looking forward to diving into this.
So I guess to kind of kick us off, if you'd love to give our listeners a little bit of background on both yourselves and what your baseball story is, and then we can dive into Total ArmCare a little bit.
All right, awesome. As many of you know, that Dave and I played baseball together. We were actually roommates in college. I was your average D3 pitcher, lefty, didn't really throw hard, had decent off speed, but I always loved the game of baseball. My first job out of college was in corporate, was pretty miserable, sitting behind a desk. It was pretty boring, and I wanted to get back into baseball. So one of my buddies, he asked me to coach with him. I think it was like a 13U team, and it was very rewarding. I really liked it. It was a lot of fun, and was really interested into learning more about the game and really developing players. It's kind of like how I got on my track for Total ArmCare. I just kept on wanting to learn and focus on
That's awesome.
player development.
Henry, do you want to share a little bit about your story and how you guys kind of got connected with this?
Yeah. So essentially, I was running about a year prior. I was working with some kids here at the local high school, implementing the same program that we're doing, and was getting a great response from kids. And I knew in my heart that it really had kind of reconnected me back into the game. And after that summer had passed, is something I kind of put on the shelf. And we had met a mutual friend who was in, strength and conditioning. And Tom and I at the time didn't really know each other. And Gerard had connected us. And, I just had one of those divine intervention, clear-cut moments that I was like, hey, this is something that, if we all come together here, this is, this could be something that we can, get off the ground and bring to life and be able to generate a business, that's giving back into the game and, separating ourselves from what's being out there. I think that was one of our biggest urgency points was the educational piece out of the gate, because some of these parents were getting consumed with these 30-minute lessons that really aren't at the best interest of their kids, but at the business. And we knew that we had something here. And within a month's time, we were doing presentations. We were trying to get feedback. We were getting signups, and from October till about December is when we launched our first program. And by the grace of God, we met a guy named Pete, who's the owner over at Morris County Cubs, who was gracious enough to open up his doors, and he saw the potential and saw what we were all about, and the benefit of the service, and allow us to run the program out of there. And it's been a great working relationship ever since then.
Love that. Yeah, I feel like I can relate a lot to that story, and I find it cool how it almost organically developed, from you just trying to be involved with the game and realizing what's out there. I feel like pitching and hitting, with analytics these days and, a lot of different thinking have run kind of hand in hand in terms of what, individual training is becoming. And, it seems like you guys are at the forefront of this, and it's exciting, and I think that story is important. Kids, that traditional one-on-one pitching lesson that you're describing, it just kids weren't benefiting from that, and it's changing a lot with
right.
analytics and stuff. And I know Drown, we've talked a lot about that. So the game's changing, and this stuff is really, becoming important.
In some ways, it's honestly doing more harm than good. It's taking a student and he is at school all day. He's sitting, he's hunched over. His muscles are stale. They're not ready to perform in any high velocity situation. And we've all done them. Within 5 to 10 minutes, you're going from zero to max effort, and then going back down to zero in such a short period of time. And you're not bringing your body through the right activation steps, and really getting prepared to throw. And there's no recovery. It's just a shame. So it was kind of our way of stepping in and offering something, a more holistic solution that was in the best interest of, the parents and more importantly, the player.
What sets Total ArmCare apart from, the conventional one-on-one pitching coaches? You guys have kind of been dipping into this. Is it the alternative methods, or is it your guys' ideologies as a former player, as a former pitcher, taking what you've learned into coaching?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it comes through with a lot of the research that we've done. I had like the corporate background where I was big into numbers and all that. And that's where my strength came in for baseball. We wanted to see what works. We wanted to see what, the science behind it and see what's actually going to get these kids better. So what we do is we assess every athlete before they begin their training. So we'll bring them through an FMS, which is a functional movement screen, to see how well they're moving. We evaluate their movement patterns, get them on the Rapsodo, assess their pitches. We want to see where they're at before we start working with them. It helps us develop a plan that's going to get you better, and we're using real numbers. This isn't we're not guessing here. We're using these real numbers that are going to help you get better, and we're going to retest you throughout the year to see if we need to make any changes on your
show
program.
Progression, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the most important part. You got to see that you're improving and progressing, because if you're not, then you're doing something wrong, and you need to train your training methods. That's what's great with Rapsodo. And same thing with the FMS is that you have these real numbers, you have this real information, and you're able to now gauge their improvement and continue to build off of that.
I think that's awesome. Can you shed a little light upon, your combination of how you're using analytics in addition to, some eye testing? Because I can imagine, the analytics will tell, probably 3/4 of the story. And then, what are you seeing, with these movement patterns, and how do those kind of work together?
Right. I mean, with the Rapsodo is such an important tool. But all it really does is help us build awareness. Prior to the Rapsodo, you look at a pitch with the naked eye and it's like, oh, that pitch looks like it's moving well. But now you have the Rapsodo on it. It's like, well, that pitch is moving the same as your 4-seam fastball. That pitch could have been a 2-seam fastball or a changeup. And I see it happen all the time where those pitches are moving the same. And we now need to look into their new grips. We need to look how we need to pair those movements that are going to help them, get more guys out. That's our goal as pitchers, is to get guys out. So we need to get a little bit creative. Obviously before we get into pitch design, you need to learn how to move down the mat. If you don't have efficient mechanics, then it's hard to really get into pitch design because your release point is changing every pitch. So it's important to build, consistent movement patterns throughout your delivery. And one of my biggest philosophies is motor learning. It's not more so about the mental cues, but it's about teaching them the physical adjustments that they need to make in a game. So we'll do a ton of motor learning drills that are going to bring them through different parts of the delivery. we're going to use cues when we utilize these motor learning drills. And so when they get on the mound, it's like, okay, you need to drive off that back leg. They know what that means. If they need to stay closed, they understand what that means. It's just developing ways for them to make physical adjustments when they're on the mound, because I'm not there holding their hand when they're in a game. You got to be able to feel what you're doing, and you got to be able to recognize that to make an adjustment pitch by pitch.
That's crucial.
And to me, that's, it's extremely important to be able to pair those two.
Some good stuff there. I mean, one, I think your side of things with this individual training, it's like you're saying, it's so much more about adjustments and feeling what you're doing. But then, I mean, and you can speak to this a little bit, when you get out onto the field, I would think it's much more mentality and having confidence in what you've done with the players off the field, correct?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, confidence plays a huge factor. If you don't have confidence in what you're doing, you're not going to have much success on the mound, and it's important to go out there and be confident. And, the way we train guys, sometimes they're going to fail in our training sessions, but what we're going to do is we're going to coach them up, and, we're going to teach them how to overcome those failures, because ultimately you learn from your mistakes. You learn from your failures, and if we can, continuously challenge them in our sessions, it's only going to help them on the field. So when they get on the field, it's like, ooh, this is pretty easy,
It's kind of blown my mind hearing you guys talk about the equipment and the resources that you guys have to help improve a player. I'm assuming it's specialized in pitching, just because I'm not that old, but growing up playing competitive baseball, you really did not have any technological advantages to improve a pitcher. You would go to a baseball training facility, and everything would be based around hitting or, agility, things like that, training. But to have specialized data and resources that can improve a pitcher as well as making them healthier or improving confidence, that's a game changer.
Spin rate is the game changer. No doubt. I mean, really, growing up, how hard do you throw? I mean, what is
right?
Eventually, you're capped at what that tells you, and the spin rate tells you so much.
It was all eye test.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, spin rate, spin efficiency, vertical break, horizontal break. I mean, it's incredible what the Rapsodo provides for you. Now we're looking at multiple things instead of just what your velocity is at, because you could have a high spin guy that throws at a lower velocity, but he's able to command the top of the zone because his ball is spinning at a much higher rate than a guy that might throw harder, but his spin numbers really aren't there. Spin, just because your velocity is high doesn't mean you automatically have high spin. Mm-hmm. And that's what's great about the Rapsodo is now that we can analyze this, and now we can see how you should be pitching throughout a game and how we should develop your pitch arsenal as well.
Or have you guys done any clinics with the Morris County Cubs over there where you're kind of teaching some of these to like a wider group?
What we have in place with the Morris County Cubs is we work with them in our group sessions. We don't really work with them in a team session, but we've worked with little leagues. I'm a high school coach. I'm also a consultant for County College of Morris. So we've worked in group settings before, but with the Cubs, it's more so, you sign up into the program and you're a part of our program.
Okay. Yeah. And the reason I ask is something, I've come across utilizing some of this technology, depending on the level of the kid, is you have all this great technology, which is awesome, and it tells a lot of data, but at the end of the day, it's articulating that to the kid. What are they going to understand, and what can they take from it? Because ultimately, if they don't understand it, it's going to be tough for them to make those adjustments. What have you guys done with that in mind?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. With kids who are younger, seeing all these data, all these numbers, it's like, what the heck does this mean? I see that my velocity is pretty good, but how's my spin going to help me? What is spin efficiency? What is gyro? What are these numbers? But what helps us, and again, it's just trying to keep it simple with the younger guys. I can look at their spin efficiency for example. Fastball spin efficiencies, you're looking for 85% plus. So if a kid has a low spin efficiency, most likely he's cutting the fastball. So we just have to look into making sure that he's staying strong on that front side. We'll look into his grip a little bit, and just use words that are going to help him understand. Same thing if pitches are being missed up in the zone, he might have to finish, he might have to get into his lower half a little bit more. So we're able to look at the Rapsodo data and, utilize it in ways for kids at multiple age levels, so that they can now understand how to use it. Like a college guy, for example, that's more pitch design that we're working with. So we'll look more at his movement patterns on his pitches and see what his sequences are and see how we should develop his pitch arsenal. So it's all dependent, on the kid, and, we as coaches have to do a good job and make sure we communicate that data and information in a way that they can understand it, in a way that they're going to get better. You just don't want to overcomplicate things. It's just about keeping it simple.
The common denominator between a lot of the guys Dave and I have had on has been customizing and making things palatable for the individual player. And I think that's what things are heading towards. But one quick question, I know you got the resources, you guys got the analytics. Is there a way to figure out, just by looking at a player, looking at the windup and the throwing motion, if a kid is susceptible to certain injuries?
Yeah, no doubt. Depending on how they're throwing, where their arm positioning is, if their arm's really, lagging behind, he's probably putting a lot of stress and pressure on that elbow, and it's not going to be healthy for him. If a kid, same thing with kids moving too quick, similar situation where, that arm is just lagging behind, and it's going to put a lot of pain and pressure there on those ligaments. Same thing, it's tighten his hips. You could tell that he can't move efficiently down the mound. So we got to address his hip mobility. Same thing if a kid can't really rotate, he probably lacks thoracic spine mobility, and, we got to address those areas. So something like that, though, it takes time. You got to work with, multiple kids of multiple age groups, understand the way they should be moving at that age and how to track those deficiencies. It's, with us, for example, we're lucky. We're partnered with Parisi Speed School, and they run an FMS on our players. So we know even before, what their deficits are and where we need to improve. But, we could even check that out in the naked eye, but it's better to have, the testing done. So, we have the data at hand.
For sure.
And not only just in the mechanics too, and that's, piggybacks into the importance of the strength training run by Parisi and, the FMS assessment is just the overall physical imbalances within the body naturally, regardless of their motion. So many kids we see, because of cell phones, they naturally have, poor posture, and just having poor posture is, suspecting them to be more prone to injury. So identifying that not only in the FMS, but also making sure that they're taking care of their bodies, during the off season, continue to grow out, the scapular muscles and the glutes and the hamstrings, and combine that with proper flexibility and stretching for a more longer, leaner overall posture.
Awesome. Yeah. And just for our listeners out there, can you guys maybe just spend, a minute or two and describe the FMS a little bit? And, one, what does that stand for? What kind of are they doing in that test? And what I know they're looking for inefficiencies essentially, but what are some common things they do in that test?
Good question, Dave.
FMS is a functional movement screen.
Okay.
So what it essentially does, it brings the athlete through a series of movements that tracks, how well they're able to move in their lower half, so their hips. Looks into their ankle mobility, quads. It will look into their T-spine rotation. It will look into how their upper body is able to move as well. So it'll go into the scaps, shoulders, rotator cuff, and it's a series of movements that brings them through those important areas. Because as a pitcher, I mean, those are some of the most important areas that you need to develop, and you need to move efficiently there. If you can't move efficiently in those areas, it could put you at risk for injury, or it could hurt your velocity, and your mechanics aren't going to be as smooth. We could try to make a mechanical adjustment with somebody, but physically they might not be able to because they're deficient in one of those areas. That's what the FMS does, and that was pretty brief, but that's essentially what it does. And it just tracks those important areas that we need to develop as a pitcher.
And now I know a big focus of Driveline now is like biomechanics and stuff like that. Is this essentially a mechanics analysis, or is this looking at those things but not doing that type of analysis?
It's more looking at it. What Driveline does is they have like a motion sense technology where it actually like they have these. I don't know the exact terminology, but they have these things that go on you, and they're able to see how efficient you're able to move. It's all hooked up into computers, and it's just more advanced than what we have. What they have is it's more scientific. It has a lot more. There's a lot more to it compared to what the FMS is. The FMS is just it rates you based off the movements that you have.
Yeah, but in a general sense, you're looking at the same type of movements. That you're looking for the same type of stuff, just using different a different way to obtain the data.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no doubt.
So moving on, this podcast is called Dugout Therapy, implying the emphasis on mentality. I think coming from a pitcher's perspective, mentality is really integral. Could you guys just talk a little bit about what are the best attributes that a pitcher should have, whether it's experience from Total ArmCare or even in your personal experiences as ball players?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the biggest things that I've come to realize more through my playing career than through coaching is everybody is a little bit different, and every situation calls for a different mentality. A starter is generally going to be a little bit more laid back, at ease. Your late inning guys are kind of your quote unquote bulldogs, which is that mentality would not fare well as a starter, and vice versa. So kind of understanding who you are, your role, and what mentality works best for you. I always played better when I was cool, calm, and relaxed, and never made too much of any moment. Personally, in my belief, the best approach, I'm not to get too high, not to get too low. And, I think that's best achieved through, the time and preparation spent through just visualizing and just meditating, calming your nerves and, putting yourself in the moment really before you're there. And, it allows for you, the individual, to be calmer when you're in that moment. There's a sense of relativity. You don't get too anxious, because when you're pitching under those emotions, that's when, you'll get a series of balls, of walks, things kind of spiral out of control, and, it gets out of your hands. So That's really it. Just identifying with, who you are, your role, and just the proper preparation. And, one of our biggest things is the visualization. And that was kind of passed down through my pitching coach, who's a sports psychologist. And, we put a lot of emphasis into that. And it's something that we have a firm belief in as well.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I don't think it's something we've dove too deeply in yet with too many of our guests, probably briefly, but actually one of my coaches as a kid, the one thing he would say before I always go out for a game would be, go see yourself doing something great. Now, when I was a kid, I was like, all right, whatever, I guess so. And, but, thinking back, like, that's a very simple statement, but it has so much to do with visualization. And as you get up to the higher levels, the more serious you take that, it really does affect so many other things mentally, confidence. It's a level of preparation. It's going to affect your overall demeanor, I would think, on the mound.
Mm-hmm.
Or, as a hitter at the plate, like it carries over in different areas. But yeah, I think it's absolutely huge. And, looking back on my career, my coach saying something as simple as that, it stuck with me to this day. So I think that's really an important tidbit for coaches to take away from this. A simple statement like that to get players thinking about it is huge.
Yeah. I mean, Dave, that's awesome. I could relate. Something that somebody always said to me was, take the game one pitch at a time. If something bad happens, so what? Next pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on what you can control. I think all that stuff. I mean, it plays a huge role, and something that we've integrated into our program. Is we'll have pitchers do dry work, but I always felt like dry work, players thought it was kind of meaningless, and it was just like, why the heck am I going to sit here for 15 minutes and break down my mechanics? It feels like it's, we're just kind of doing it to do it because coach has no idea what else to do with the pitchers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Something that we've integrated was that we'll have them throw off the mound. They'll go through their dry work and they'll visualize themselves being successful. They'll visualize themselves going through their pitches, their arsenal. Obviously repping through their delivery. Mm-hmm. They'll visualize themselves, spotting that curveball, throwing a 2-strike curveball, blowing a fastball by someone, weak contact, getting out of a jam. And repping through their delivery that way, I feel like that has a much more beneficial impact and something that's really gonna help them hone in on the games, and thinking of something positive as well. Say if you have a bad outing, and before you step on the mound, you're able to go through this type of this dry work on the mound where you're visualizing yourself now being successful, going through your delivery, working through these situations. I think that has, a tremendous impact on somebody because now your mind is right. Your mind is set. You feel better about yourself and, you feel confident as well.
Yeah. I think there's some good stuff in there. Like, I mean, for me, thinking about it, if you are visualizing success, like you're saying here, where you're spotting up that pitch, that is what kind of sparks that next pitch mentality versus, no matter what you're doing on a baseball field, it's so easy to think about the last thing that just happened. If it's a negative, whatever that result is, but if you're focusing on the visualization of what you're about to do, that keeps you out of that mentality and keeps you thinking about the next pitch, that next pitch mentality, that owning the moment mentality, something we talked about a lot at Moravian, as you know, and it's crucial.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Dave. I'm glad that you brought that up.
So you two, Tom and Henry, both being pitchers, I always love talking some MLB here. What are some pitchers that young kids should emulate by, not just performance, but mechanics? Pitchers that you think today are doing a fundamentally sound and they're pitching the right way?
I mean, that's a really good question, but it's also a very tough question because each pitcher, it's their mechanics work because it's the type of body that they have, where it's that they've developed to be. To point out one specific pitcher is tough because that's just who they are. You're going to have some guys out there that are max effort guys, and then you're going to have guys out there that look like they're throwing with barely any effort.
Right.
So it's tough. But somebody who I love watching pitch is Max Scherzer, because that dude just competes and works every single pitch. If he throws a bad pitch, he's getting on, he's taking a deep breath, he's refocusing, and he's ready to go the next pitch. Like he's coming at you. And that's who I really love to watch, and his delivery works for him, because he's so explosive. He's more of a max effort guy, and he's able to, whip his body, through his delivery, and it's fun to watch, between his mechanics and his overall competitiveness. I really like watching that dude pitch.
Then now that you just said that, it is interesting how the act of pitching, you can throw so many different ways, and if it works for you, it works for you. You don't really see that in other sports, like in football. A lot of the quarterbacks have the same release and throwing motion, but Lincecum's throwing motion was a lot different than a submarine pitcher, and they often had the same results.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And as you're saying that about Scherzer, I'm thinking it's so obvious to people that watch a guy like that to say he controls the pace of the game with his demeanor. Like you're saying, he makes a bad pitch and he clears his head and immediately it's the next pitch. That, like, a pitcher's ability to do that can overcome talent like tenfold for me. From my experience, you can have someone that's an average pitcher, but if he's able to control the game like that and throw a one bad pitch immediately out, from his mind, that is when you got something special with a kid. And I think you guys probably cherish that, working with a guy like that, and know that he has a really tall ceiling that, potential wise.
Yeah, no doubt. A good example is, this past spring I coached at a high school, and, we had a wide range of arms. We had a guy committed to Maryland who, he could throw the ball high 80s, low 90s, had some disgusting breaking stuff. And we had a guy, a lefty junk thrower, throwing, 65 miles an hour with a 58 mile an hour breaker. And he would go out there and just pitch as well as our Maryland commit and just go out and shove. And, up and down the board, depending on who the pitcher was, is, they developed their own mentality. They developed their own personality as well, like who they were, on the mound, and they were able to pitch to their strengths. They bought into who they were. They weren't trying to be somebody else. And, because of that, we had probably one of the most, successful pitching staffs in school history. Awesome. And it's fun to watch when you get a bunch of dudes that just want to buy in and, are about the team and want to compete and, understand what their role is and, what they need to do to help the team win,
And that's what makes it fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's great.
So pivoting back, your guys' company, Total ArmCare, what are some routines that you guys have enacted into your training in order to promote discipline as well as keeping your guys focused?
Right. That's a really good question as well. I really like your guys' questions. You're hitting on a lot of topics, so I just want to mention that. But anyway, we have a set dynamic warm up, arm care, recovery routines, but we teach it to them right away. They come in, they go to work, they know what they need to do to prepare themselves for each session. We want to create like an open environment, like a pretty loose and open training environment, where athletes can come in, that they know what they have to do. There's no questions asked. They go through this routine, and then they get ready to throw. Then it's time for us to start working with them. I want the athletes to come in also and, be open to how they feel and continue to ask questions on how to get better. I think that's important in creating that type of environment where, we're able to establish some discipline and focus where they know what they have to do. They come in, they do it, and they know what they have to work on to prepare themselves to throw that day. Because in a game, a lot of, especially in high school, there's, high school coaches don't really have a set routine for these pitchers to go through. I mean, even at the youth levels, I'm not talking high school, I'm talking, youth, little league. It's important for them to have an established routine to prepare their bodies to throw that day. And if they're not feeling good, if their arm's sore, they need to listen to their arm, they need to listen to their body, and they need to talk to their coach. And, me as a coach, it's my job to now create a plan for them that day that's going to get them better and that's going to be in their overall best interest. I don't want a guy who's afraid to tell me that his arm's hurting, because at the end of the day, it's going to do more harm than good for him to push through something like that. I don't want to see him get into, long-term injury. That's just not good.
Mm-hmm. That's so important because, pitch count seems like the only thing that's beneficial for a pitcher that coaches kind of enforce. It's really important for kids to, admit when they're, to translate what their body's telling them. Mm-hmm. If it's sore, you got to get out of there. But 9 out of 10 times, a kid isn't going to do that.
Right. And I think
our
it comes
job as coaches is ultimately to make sure that environment, like you're saying, Drown, that they feel open to talk with the coach about how they feel. If we don't have that environment for them, we've already failed.
Yeah, exactly. And as coaches, it's important to ask kids questions. A high schooler, for example, would be like, "Hey, how you feeling?" He's gonna be like, "Oh, coach, I feel good." But ask him a question like, "Hey, how's your arm feeling? Is it sore? How your legs feeling?" You got to go in depth with them. If you ask how they're feeling, they're going to tell you they feel good. But you got to build this relationship and the trust with them, and make sure that they know that that what you're doing is for their best interests, and it's important to develop that trust and relationship, right away.
And just throwing this out there, maybe a cool document with some actionable routines that you guys want to make for some of our coaches. Just throwing it out there. You throw it on the training hub. Let you guys mull it over,
Yeah, no doubt. We'll definitely create something for you. We plan on doing
into what you guys do.
What was that?
Maybe a little sneak peek document into what you guys do with your kids. I think that'd be cool for some coaches maybe to take to high school practice or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. They can follow our Instagram page, Total ArmCare. We have a bunch of stuff posted on there. Continually post stuff from inside. Give them an inside look at some of our sessions. But yeah, we're definitely going to post some material. I really like what you guys are doing. I think it's great for coaches. I think this is going to be awesome, and we look forward to sending you guys some content to help other coaches out. Because this is how I got to where I was continuously asking questions, researching, going to coaching conventions. When you go out and talk to other coaches, like they're willing to help you. We're all in the same same business here, and that's to help kids and get kids better at the sport that they love. So it's important. If other coaches that are listening to go out and just ask questions. If somebody needs to reach out to me, feel free. Like I'm here because there's a lot of coaches that have greatly impacted me, and I couldn't be more thankful.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot. That's why a lot of us, are doing this. We think back about all the coaches that have impacted us, and we want to give back. Yeah, after your playing days come to an end, you love the game, you want to give back, and that's what it's all about. And coaches listening, get out there, get involved, connect with other coaches, keep learning, don't stop learning. And that's what we're about. And we're going to, try to help as many coaches as we can to do that. But Drown, Henry, it's been great chatting. It's been fun thus far. Just want to head into our last section here, our quick pitch questions. We got 3 questions for you guys to kind of wrap things up. But it's been real fun thus far.
Oh yeah, it's been a blast. I really appreciate you having us on and thinking about us. I mean, we're not even a year in yet to Total ArmCare, and I couldn't be more thankful for everybody who's reached out and just wanting to learn and see what we're about. I mean, it's been quite the ride since we first started, and thank you, appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. So first one, and both you guys can give maybe your own answer to this, but what's your favorite baseball book or motivational book?
Oh man, dude, you're killing me. that right there is tough. I've read so many books this past year, and I be honest with you, what really got me turned on to analytics before I got into these other books is the Cubs way. Talking about, the GM, what the heck's his name, that from Boston that went over to
Theo?
Yeah, Theo. Yeah. I can't believe I blanked out on his name. That's pretty bad. But
Theo.
Yeah, but yeah, that guy. But anyway, talking about the work that he did in Boston, and how it transitioned to the Cubs. I mean, the guy basically broke 2 curses when you look at it, which is pretty impressive. I'm a Yankees fan. I don't like the Red Sox, but I mean, you got to show this guy and give him some credit. I mean, it's impressive what that he's been able to do and the amount of time and effort that he's put into it. A lot of people doubted him, and he stuck with his guts and he stuck with what he believed in, and he's done a phenomenal job wherever he's gone. So that book right there probably transformed me as a coach.
I would say one of the classics that still is very, very relevant and still well received within the baseball community that helped a lot was the mental ABCs of pitching. That kind of helped break things down and just give a new perspective and allowed me to have kind of the emotional intelligence into everything that we were just breaking down about 10 minutes ago. So it's an easy read. It's very well constructed, well formatted. And, it's a great tool, for a young athlete, a pitcher specifically, to be able to, start to identify and understand what the other 90%, really is, kind of pulls back that curtain a little bit in a good way.
Yeah. I just bought that on Amazon. You sold me on it.
You're only 10 years late. No, just kidding. No, it's
I haven't read that book yet. That's got to be on the reading list now.
There you go. All right. So question number 2, what's one piece of advice you would give a high school player trying to play at the next level? Yeah,
I mean, it's a really good question. It's working at the game multiple days a week. I originally want to say, go in and get professional instruction and training. I think that's extremely important if you're able to do it. But for those that can't, just going out and long tossing and lifting and pitching and getting outside and, just working at the game multiple days a week. Like it's a lot of work to become a
Work
good
on your craft. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of young athletes don't realize how much work it takes to really get to the next level. So, get out and just work on your craft, get better, lifting's important, but, make sure you're lifting the proper way. If anybody wants to reach out about any plans or programs, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to share a few things with you guys.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, just having that devotion, to put in the time and work hard. Surround yourself with the people, the players that are at or going to be where you're trying to go, and start to identify yourself with them and what are they doing and how are they operating on a daily basis? And, just putting yourself in that environment is going to escalate you, whether you really realize it or not. That was one of, if not the biggest, it was a blessing, because I was going to put into a team that had that talent. But it kind of get you to realize what it takes. And, is this, what you really want to do? When you look yourself in the mirror, it's like, man, is Tom over there? He's going D1. I have aspirations to T1. I know what it takes, but am I cut out for this? And if so, just continue to put yourself in the environment with the ones that are already going there. So
I love that. That's cool. Yeah. So our last question: what was the biggest challenge baseball has given you?
Ooh, this is tough. Baseball has challenged me in ways that I can't even. Looking back in the college days, waking up early, working out, going to class, getting some individual work done. Maybe we had practice or more class. Time management, focus, discipline. It's tough. It's really is a grind, but at the same time, it's very rewarding. It's beneficial. It's a lot of fun. So, I don't like using the word grind so much, but it's a lot, but it's a huge commitment, but it's extremely rewarding as well. Without baseball, I don't know where I'd be today. I'd probably be still stuck behind a desk in corporate, all miserable. So,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Baseball's been great.
Man, that is definitely a tough question, and Tom kind of hit where I was going to be going. In high school, it was a little bit easier, I guess, because it's kind of just in the spring for the most part. When you're in college and the level of competition, the level of commitment, everything has just escalated. And you're tested every day. You're challenged every day at 5:45 when your alarm wakes up. You got to turn the gears on to give a good workout. And then right from there you're in the classroom, and then you got class, and then you go eat, and then it's time for studying, and you got to wake up and do the whole thing over again. So you're tested on a daily basis. And like Tom said, I don't like the word grind. But it's a gut check when you're at that level of competition, and I'm sure it only gets more. I can't speak, for professional schedule, but the risk is worth the reward. And your passion, when your passion shines through, and you get to experience a championship with your brothers. That's when you look back. It's like, man, every sprint, every drill, it was all worth it for this moment. So I can stand here and celebrate and share this, with my brother to my left and my right. So yeah. That's what it's all about, baby.
That's awesome. Love that. Yeah, I mean, this game is so rewarding, and what you take from it off the field, I often think is so important, and those lessons will stay with you forever. So, hey, Tom, Henry, thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome chatting. Really loved talking a little bit about pitching, something different for me. I don't always talk about the pitching side of things, so this was great. Where can folks learn more about you?
Yeah, I mean, so we have an Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Total ArmCare. We have a website as well, www.totalarmcare.com. They can reach out to us at our email, info@totalarmcare.com. Like I said before, like reach out if you have any questions. So many coaches have been influential in my life and in my career as a coach. I'm only 26 years old, but I can't begin to thank all the coaches that have made an impact in my life so far. Again, I'm here for you. So if, you need anything, just feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to talk, chat, whatever you need.
Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to Dugout Therapy with Quinn and I today. Just finished up a great episode with Tom and Henry from Total ArmCare. Was really glad to have them on. I was just thankful, to have a good friend like Tom on the episode, but wanted to thank you all for listening. And, if you could please take a minute or two, hop on Apple and leave us a review on Dugout Therapy there. Good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it may be. Talk to us. We want to get your feedback. We want to, keep tailoring our content for you guys, keep getting better. So please let us know what you think, and we'll get in touch. We'll engage. Reach out to us on social media at Coach Crates on all of our stuff: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or our website www.coachcrates.com. Looking forward to chatting with you guys. Thanks.